What's up, everybody? Shoot, today we got a crazy day as Bitcoin heads toward 10,000. The Fed continues to just print money like it's nothing as the national debt keeps going skyrocket high. And we got Trump saying that he wants negative interest in order to be able to compete with the rest of the world as a gift. Is this the perfect opportunity for Bitcoin to decouple from traditional stocks and traditional finance 1.0? Stay tuned to find out. And finally, I give you a little taste of my own medicine. What is this new normal the media wants us to hear? I got one message for you toward the end of this. Stay tuned to find out. Has to do with something like this. All right. And please go ahead and subscribe, like, hit the bell. Go ahead. I'm waiting. You do it? No, just right there. Just take your mouse over, subscribe, the little red button, click it, hit the bell, so you make sure you always get my excellent content as soon as it's ready, because I'm busy, I don't have a lot of time to produce this, but when I do, it's something worth watching. So go ahead, click the bell. Did you subscribe yet? Did you click it yet? All right, and last little thing you gotta do is just click the like button. All right, I would love to see record subscriptions and likes on this video. All right, guys, stay tuned, check it out. Here we go. Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Chasse, a Bitcoin and crypto OG since 2012. I quickly understood that Bitcoin and its underlying technology would change the world, so I went all in. I've built, invested, and advised many projects in the space and consider myself an expert generalist. In 2018, I became very concerned about the misinformation going around the cryptosphere and felt that someone needed to speak up, educate, and assist the space in evolving in the best possible way. I made a decision that I would be more public, speak out against misinformation, educate the world on the most important things about Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain. I've been traveling the world, speaking at conferences, and working with the best minds in the space to innovate the systems that we grew up with in order to improve the quality of life for the global citizens of Earth. Welcome to my channel. Okie doke.
Ready?
Yep, let's do it. Marta, shut up!
Oh, you see us beating here.
Sorry, that's my sister just making tons of noise on her motorbike.
Nice. Okay, let's get started.
Oh, you're taller than me.
Yes, I tried. This is on purpose.
Yeah, she's really tall.
She's tall. Okay, let's get started. So, on May 11th, read today on Cointelegraph, President Trump pressured the Fed to offer negative interest rates. And this is alongside the already $1 trillion stimulus package that bailed out essentially corporations. And many Americans have not even received their checks. So with that in mind, I wanted to ask you for your thoughts on the fact, well, first off, on the fact that it happened on May 11th, which is also the day, coincidentally, the day of Bitcoin's halving. So what are your thoughts on that? Because it appears to me there's this separation that's happening between Bitcoin's value and price action compared to that of traditional markets. So what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, Trump wants to, lower interest rates in order to encourage lending and borrowing. But what that would do essentially is basically you're going to be, if you're putting your money in a bank, you're going to actually have to pay taxes on, or be paying interest on your money in your savings account. So, this is Trump wants to encourage debt, and this goes back to more of a debt-based society, right? So the Federal Reserve and the U.S. dollar has always been a debt-based instruments, right? So from the second that they print a dollar at the Federal Reserve, it's already has to be paid back with $1 and some interest. So this is just further encouraging debt-based society, and this is really just the last type of the tool chest they have to try to salvage this economy that is crumbling right now. With Bitcoin, we have basically what the Fed said is they have unlimited quantitative easing, which means unlimited printing of cash. And so we're seeing, what's interesting too right now is that, the Fed tries to keep the inflation rate of US dollar at 2% per year. With the halving that we just had through Bitcoin, now the inflation rate is 1.8%. So it's already lower than what the Fed tries to do. But this year, I'm sure that we have significantly higher inflation in the US dollar than we have had before. I mean, the money supply is just insane right now. So, this is just, I guess, a further use case for quantitative easing or unlimited money printing.
Can you characterize everything that the Fed has done this past week as essentially flooding the system with money?
Yes, exactly.
And there's no end to your ability to do that?
There is no end to our ability to do that.
Is the Fed just going to print money?
That's literally what Congress has told us to do. That's the authority that they've given us, to print money and provide liquidity into the financial system. And that's how we do it. We create it electronically, and then we can also print it with the Treasury Department, print it so that you can get money out of your ATM.
For the US dollar, and quantitative hardening for Bitcoin as the inflation decreases.
So something else that I found interesting in his pressuring of the Fed to offer negative interest rates is the fact that as a leader, as a global leader, but primarily as a national leader, he has the responsibility to take action for the people that benefit the people. And our current Fed governing bodies disagreed with this. They said that they did not agree with this. But what I found interesting, or what I'd like to hear your thoughts on, is what do you think about this? Like, as opposed to proposing negative interest rates, what should he do?
I mean, that's a good question. That's the ultimate question that everybody is asking. Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, I don't really know the answer to that. I'm not a macroeconomist. I don't really follow, the U.S. economy very much, and But when you mention that, like, the fact that government should be for the people, we clearly see that it's not aligned with that, right? So when you see this massive multi-trillion-dollar stimulus, a very small percentage of that went to the actual people, and a huge percentage of that went to huge corporations. And this is bullshit. Like, what happened is basically, the U.S., the major corporations, when because they make, bailing out airlines and cruise lines and huge companies that make hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars a year in profit, not even in revenue, but that's profit going into pockets, or could be going to pockets. But instead of being responsible, these CEOs and things like that, and instead of putting the money aside for a rainy day or a pandemic or an emergency, whatever, they've been buying back their stocks. And so what happens when you buy back your stocks is you don't have much profit, because all the money that you make, it goes back into buying your own stocks. And so now, instead of, when we have a month or 2 months of hard times, these guys aren't generating revenue, instead of having them sell their stocks in order to pay their employees to survive for these few months that they don't have business, the Fed is just printing money and giving it to them, so the CEOs and things like that don't have to sell any of their stock. Their stock value remains high, because we don't want the stock market to crash. That's the whole reason that they're providing stimulus. Bullshit. And really, what you don't realize is that the stimulus money isn't just money printed out of nowhere, right? This is going to be a massive, in order to try to pay off our national debt, which is damn near impossible, you're going to be taxed, right? So all the money that's being the stimulus, that's taxable money that you are going to have to pay off. All the U.S. citizens, taxpayers, they're the ones who have to pay for these huge corporations to get bailed out. It's bullshit, right? So what should happen is we should not be providing them with big money, right? Let them be, if they're irresponsible, let them suffer the repercussions of it, and this is what needs to happen. We need to stop this irresponsible managing of revenue from these big companies, and we should never be in this position in the first place. We should have never bailed out those big companies. We should have let them go through whatever natural process they needed to go through. Yes, the the hedge funds and yes, the investors, they would suffer losses, but they can afford to suffer losses. Who can't afford to suffer losses are your average, everyday working American taxpayer who now has to pay for their responsibility in the form of taxes down the line.
While the current chairman of the Fed, Powell, disagreed with President Trump's proposal, the former president of the Fed, his name escapes me at the moment.
Money.
Yes, exactly.
He chimed in and actually backed President Trump with his proposal, stating, and I don't say this verbatim, but he basically says that this will help stop the current recession that's unfolding. So I find that interesting because many Bitcoin experts jumped in, including Peter Schiff and Gemini co-founder Tyler Winklevoss, stating that this was actually just going to be a massive transfer of wealth from the savers to the debtors, stating it was going to only further encourage the spiraling of our economy. And to your point and what you just stated, it seems like, like what many parents have to do oftentimes, or what we have to do to ourselves, if we're injured, or if someone, has a bleeding arm or has some infection and it needs to be amputated. It's like, it hurts, you don't want to do it, but sometimes what's best is painful initially, right? You have to amputate it, you have to cut it, you have to let the bleeding happen. So it seems like what needs to happen, and to these Bitcoin experts' point, is the economy needs to crash. However, my question to you is, with the continuous printing of trillions of dollars, and now this proposal for negative interest rates and what it's going to cause, like at what point will the economy spiral? When will it crash?
Again, something that none of us know. I mean, I've been asking the same question to everybody that is a macroeconomist or, might have some answers to it, right? And, one of the things that we discussed yesterday with the macroeconomist was the fact that, the markets are based on expectations. And right now, the reason that we saw the first market crash around, middle of March was because the lockdown happened and there was no stimulus yet proposed. So everyone thought everything was going to crash because the economy was going to stop, and then the Fed stepped in and said, no, hold up. I think they actually had to freeze the markets on Monday in order to then propose what they're going to do in order to salvage the markets. And they just said that they're going to do unlimited money printing. And so markets are based on expectations, and right now, with the economy kind of reopening, people expect that the economy is going to recover, and and so with this, but like it's just kicking the can down the road. It needs to happen, like you said, it needs to happen, and but it's really a bad monetary system, and it's based on debt again, and it really needs. So there is no answer. I wish I knew, because like I've been talking about in my previous videos, that I think there is a correlation, and so it would be nice to know between financial markets and Bitcoin market. And by the way, also, Peter Schiff is not a Bitcoin expert. Like you said, Peter Schiff is a
gold bug.
He's a gold bug, and he's a Bitcoin minimalist or pessimist, I should say. But anyway, yeah. So the economy, I'm not sure when it's going to crash. Eventually, it will. Every day I'm paying attention to see, what's going on in the economy and watching the news to see what sentiment is, because I think sentiment is incredibly important, right? Like, even though states are reopening, are people going to go out and spend money? Are they going to go on planes? Are they going to go to restaurants? Are they going to, do the things that they normally do? And the answer is, I don't know.
So it seems like especially considering the current virus pandemic and how cash, handheld cash and transfer of money is a huge contamination exchange, right? So what are your thoughts on Bitcoin's mass adoption considering the pandemic?
Well, whether cash has been used for centuries, or at least a century. I don't know how long, but centuries actually. And I wouldn't say that's ever been the responsibility of any type of global pandemics. So I think that's just it's just really an excuse from people as a catalyst for a central bank digital dollar. And we've seen this, and I've talked about it before, that the central banks and are going to be printing digital fiat. So we're not going to see cash dollars or Mexican pesos or Russian rubles. I mean, within 5 or 10 years, cash will be gone anyway, pandemic or not. But do you want to participate in cash gives you a little bit of freedom, right? It's fungible, it has an anonymity to it. You can keep it under the mattress for emergencies, things like that, in case the bank shut down. Or in case there's something that's happening now where you see martial law happening basically in a lot of the countries around the world. People are getting arrested for going outside, and so if there starts to be these insane actions from governments, and people think that's crazy, that's never going to happen, but you're watching it happen right now on TV. People are getting arrested for opening their business. People are getting arrested for going outside.
Give me the key, please. You'll feel safer with me. Can I just have the key?
And so to me, it's a very dystopian and scary world when you look at a world without cash. If something like Bitcoin didn't exist, or if Monero didn't exist, right? And so I think that initially it's not a bad thing that we will have digital cash. However, people should educate themselves and understand what kind of digital cash do you want to participate in, right? You're going to have options in this world, right? You're going to have centralized options and decentralized options. I personally think that a decentralized option is a much, much better route to go because it's public, it's permissionless, it's censorship resistant, and nobody can tell you what you can and cannot do with your money. And if you use something like Monero, it has complete privacy, and with central bank digital dollars, every little thing that you spend money on is going to be monitored. Every little thing that you do is going to be taxed. Everything that you do, every parking ticket you get is going to be taken directly out of your account, when it's due. There's not going to be any more leniency with the way that you manage your money. Everything is going to be tracked. Everything is going to be visible. So all the things that you spend money on right now that you like to have some privacy in, forget about it. So no matter what, cash is gone, right? Soon enough. And so we're going to have digital options, and it's your choice what one you want to participate in.
Very well, thank you. And lastly, I want to just conclude with asking you for your thoughts on the different perspectives that are out there right now on the current pandemic virus being sort of a scapegoat or hoax, for the lack of a better word, that really is just like I said, the scapegoat that's being blamed, that will then open way to the rise of the police state and the censorship and the tracking that's already being done. All our mobile devices are already tracked. They already, know all our messages. What would you say to that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your take on that?
So there's every time that we go into making major changes in in the world, like freedom or decide to invade a country, the way that the governments do that is by instilling a lot of fear in the public, right? So we know that like the Vietnam War was a result of the fake Gulf of Tonkin, the Bay of Pigs thing, this fake missile into a submarine. Like that never happened, right? They just did that in order to make them a scapegoat in order for us to go invade, right? And you know, this is the jury's out on this one, but you know, my belief is that 9/11 was an inside job too. Again, it was used to instill fear and anger in Americans so we would support us going to war.
We are told to believe that the fire from the jet fuel melted the steel framing of the towers, which led to their collapse. But did you know jet fuel doesn't burn at high enough temperature to melt steel? We were told the Pentagon was hit by a hijacked plane as well. But now look at this photo of the Pentagon. The hole is not nearly big enough. And if a plane hit it, where's the rest of the plane? Whoa. So now, the inevitable question. If terrorists didn't cause 9/11, who did?
All I had to do was have explosives planted in the base of the towers. Then on 9/11, we pretended like 4 planes were being hijacked when really we just rerouted them to Pennsylvania, then flew 2 military jets in the World Trade Center filled with more explosives and shot down all the witnesses in Flight 93 with an F-15 after blowing up the Pentagon with a cruise missile. It was only the world's most intricate and flawlessly executed plan ever.
Right, and so, you know, at first, when I first heard about Corona, I thought it was going to be something that was a scapegoat for the economy crashing. I thought that they were going to let the economy crash because I thought we were headed in that direction already. And I thought it was going to be something that, you know, Trump wanted to be able to just point a finger and say, no, it wasn't me, it was that thing. You know, but I think that maybe that's not the case now, considering the fact that they haven't let it crash yet. But if it does, it's gonna be Corona's fault or China virus, right? Not Trump's fault, of course, or the former presidencies too, because it wasn't just Trump; it was everything leading up to this. But you do make a valid point. Like, so maybe the motive was different. It was you know, they call, like, one, there's tons of profit and scaring the shit out of the whole world,
Right.
and then making everyone believe that you need this virus, or so you need this vaccine, which I'm not getting a fucking vaccine. Like, there's no need for it. This is just a flu. If you're healthy and you're fine, like, okay, maybe if you're super old, you know, and you have a weak immune system, maybe that's something you want to consider at that point. But they want to vaccinate everybody. And not only do they want to vaccinate everybody, but they want to trace everybody too.
So scary.
Yeah, so it's a really good actually thing that you know, good point that you make. Yeah, I think that like what we're seeing now in the statistics is that this is no worse on a casualty basis than a normal flu year. In fact, I think 2017 had a more deaths caused from flu than this year we have so far, or from COVID flu. So yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, you know, and then there's this also thing that I really am getting passionate about is like, I can't stand this term new normal, right? Like that, if you look at media, that has been in every media, everyone's saying new normal, and I hear people saying this all the time, new normal, and that is just something that they threw into the media in order to get you used to this new normal, wearing masks, social distancing, no more hugs, no more handshakes, you know, like just pure social control, right? And so, you know, there's this idea is just ludicrous, and then they're going to think that, ooh, we're so scared of this virus, we need to track and trace everybody, and we need to vaccinate everybody, right? And so I think this is insanity. I can just say I'm glad I'm not in America right now, and because there's a good chance that this vaccination is not going to be optional. It's going to be mandatory. There's a good chance that that's going to happen. Contact tracing is going to be mandatory, maybe. You know, look at what they did with kids in school. They forced vaccinations on kids, right? Which is completely, absolutely insane. So yeah, that means a really valid point that you make. It's highly likely that that's the case.